You ever wonder why the more you chase him, the further he seems to run? Let's flip the script. Because here's the truth, most women don't hear enough. Men don't fall in love with women who chase them. They fall for the ones who center themselves. I'm not talking about playing hard to get, ignoring his texts, or faking disinterest. I'm talking about a quiet power, the kind that doesn't need to pursue, prove, or perform to be chosen. Think about this. If a man doesn't have to earn your attention, what value does he place on it? When you chase, even with the best intentions, like showing you care, being available, or proving you're not like other women, you actually send an unconscious message that you're trying to qualify for him. But attraction doesn't work that way. Real attraction is born in the space between your energy and his curiosity. And when you're constantly filling that space, texting first, initiating plans, over-explaining, over-giving, there's no room for him to lean in. So why does chasing backfire? Because it removes the mystery, it removes the challenge, and most of all, it removes your power. In this video, we're diving deep into what men secretly crave, but rarely admit out loud, and why women who don't chase naturally trigger something ancient, primal, and magnetic inside them. By the end, you won't just stop chasing, you'll stop needing to, because you'll know you were the prize all along. Let's begin. So here's where a lot of people get confused, and it's totally understandable. Showing interest in someone is not the same thing as pursuing them. The difference might seem subtle, but it's actually huge, and it completely shifts how you're perceived. Interest is energy. Pursuit is effort. When you're interested, it's a vibe, it's how you carry yourself, it's the eye contact, the smile, the openness. You're warm, receptive, and present. You're a veiler. But you're not overextending. Pursuit, on the other hand, is when you step into the role of the chaser. You initiate every conversation, make all the plans, and subtly or not so subtly start trying to win him over. Now here's where it flips on you. When you move from expressing interest into pursuit, you shift the power dynamic. And in healthy masculine-feminine polarity, especially in the early stages of dating, men are wired to value what they earn, not what they're handed. When a woman leads with pursuit, she accidentally takes away his natural drive to move toward her. And that pursuit, that tension, is what deepens his emotional investment. You're not being cold or manipulative by letting a man take the lead. You're giving space for him to step up. And if he doesn't, that tells you everything you need to know. A high V value you woman doesn't chase because she understands her energy is the invitation, not a pitch. She can show she's interested without bending over backwards to convince someone to choose her. She smiles, she receives, she might even flirt back, but she doesn't chase and she doesn't beg for breadcrumbs. And when a man senses that, it's like a spark. He knows he has to bring something real to the table or he'll lose the chance. So if you're asking, but what if I like him? Good. Let him feel that, but let him come toward it. Don't be afraid to lean back and let your presence do the talking. Because when you're secure in your value, you never need to pursue. You become the one worth pursuing. Let's get real for a second. There's this idea floating around that men just want looks, obedience, or someone who strokes their ego 24/7s. But ask any man who's emotionally mature, who's really ready for a deep connection, and he'll tell you it's not about any of that. What men truly crave, what pulls them in beyond the surface, is presence. It's the inner guy a woman carries when she knows who she is, when she's not trying to impress or prove her worth, when she's grounded in her value, regardless of who's watching. A high-value woman doesn't chase approval because she already knows she belongs at the table. And men, especially quality men, can feel that energy before you even speak. It's in the way you walk, the way you hold eye contact, the way you sit in silence without needing to fill every gap with words or nervous laughter. It's magnetic. What men crave most is a woman who isn't afraid to be seen. Not just for how she looks, but for who she is when she's fully herself. That means owning your emotions, speaking with clarity, setting boundaries without fear, and knowing when to say no. That's not difficult. That's powerful. A lot of women think they have to be overly agreeable, super accommodating, always saying yes just to keep a man interested. But that doesn't inspire love. it creates imbalance. Because when you abandon your needs to secure his attention, you train him to expect less from you and give less in return. What men really crave is emotional safety. They want to feel accepted, yes, but also challenged in a healthy way. A high-value woman doesn't nag, but she also doesn't tolerate being taken for granted. She invites him to rise, not through criticism, but through her standards, through the way she lives, loves, and leads herself. And don't get it twisted, being soft doesn't mean being weak. True softness, when rooted in confidence, is one of the most powerful things a woman can embody. It invites him in while still keeping her integrity intact. That's rare and that's unforgettable. At the end of the day, what men crave isn't a woman who fits perfectly into their life like a puzzle piece. They crave a woman who knows she's already whole. Someone who adds depth, meaning, and richness, not by doing the most, but by being the most authentic version of herself. And when you stop trying to be what you think he wants and start becoming more of who you are, that's when the right man shows up. Not because you chased him, but because you called him in without saying a word. If you've ever wondered what makes a man not just attracted, but emotionally hooked, this part is for you. Physical attraction might catch his eye. Sure, but emotional obsession, that's a whole different level. And it's not about manipulating or pretending to be something you're not. It's about tapping into the emotional experiences that men don't even realize they're craving until they meet a woman who gives them that feeling they can't shake. So what are these triggers? The first one is emotional unpredictability. Not in a chaotic or toxic way, but in a healthy, feminine way. When you're not always reacting the same, when you keep your responses real, and in the moment you create a sense of depth and intrigue. Men become obsessed with women who they can't fully figure out because she keeps surprising them, not with drama, but with authenticity. 1 minute you're playful, the next you're quiet and thoughtful. That range, it's addictive. Next, being in your own world. Men are drawn to women who clearly have a full life, hobbies, passions, a sense of purpose beyond the relationship. Why? Because it makes them want to earn a place in that world. When you're not always available, when your happiness isn't dependent on him, it triggers something primal. He starts to chase, to prove, to value what he knows isn't waiting around for him. Another huge emotional trigger, making him feel like a hero. Not by boosting his ego, but by showing that you trust him, rely on him in small ways, and appreciate his efforts. When a man feels like he's contributing to your life and that his presence means something, he feels emotionally significant. And that's what builds obsession, not surface level attention, but emotional meaning. Also, don't underestimate the power of emotional safety with a little mystery. A woman who can listen without judgment, who allows space for a man to express himself without fixing or criticizing, she becomes a rare find. But when she also holds boundaries, keeps a sense of mystery, and doesn't overshare everything at once, she becomes unforgettable. Because she feels safe, but not too easy to reach. Lastly, there's self-rust. A woman who trusts her instincts, who doesn't second-guess herself, and who knows when to walk away. That confidence speaks louder than anything. Men become obsessed with women who trust themselves because it signals strength, maturity, and emotional independence. When a woman embodies all of this, not because she's trying to get a man, but because it's who she is. She doesn't just attract attention, she lingers in his mind. Long after the conversation ends, long after he scrolls past 1,000 others. That's not just attraction, that's imprinting. And that's how obsession begins. Here's a truth that a lot of women feel deep down, but don't always act on. The more you overinvest in someone too soon, the more likely they are to undervalue you. Now let's be clear. Caring isn't the problem. Being kind, thoughtful, warm, that's your power. But there's a line between giving and overgiving, between being emotionally available and emotionally excessive. And when you cross that line, especially early on, something quietly shifts in the dynamic. Suddenly your energy starts to chase and his energy starts to pull away. Here's the silent power you may not realize you have. Holding back just enough to let the relationship breathe, not over-explaining, not constantly checking in, not giving more than what's been earned. When you stop over-investing, when you stop acting like the relationship is already yours to maintain, you actually create space for the man to show up, step in, and contribute. That space, that's what makes him feel like he wants to do more, not out of obligation, but from desire. Think about it. If someone hands you the trophy before you've played the game, where is the excitement? Where's the meaning? It's the same in relationships. When a woman rushes in emotionally, when she gives her time, energy, vulnerability, and care, before a man has even shown consistency or earned her trust, she's making a silent declaration. You don't have to give me anything. I'll do it all. That may feel loving, but it comes across as lack of self-rust, lack of boundaries, lack of standards. On the flip side, when you hold your center, when you don't text just to keep his interest alive, when you don't bend your schedule to stay available, when you're not overanalyzing every interaction, you shift the emotional frequency. You move from being the one who's trying to secure him to being the one who chooses if he's even qualified. And here's what happens. He notices. He senses the difference. You become the woman he can't quite predict, can't fully figure out, and definitely can't take for granted. Men become addicted to that quiet confidence, that self-assured energy that says, I care, but I'll never compete. So, if you're wondering why pulling back often creates more attraction, it's because it taps into something subconscious. It tells him, she doesn't need me, she chooses me. And nothing is more attractive than someone who chooses from a place of self-worth, not scarcity. That's the silent power of not over-investing. You say less, but you mean more. You give less, but you matter more. And he'll feel that long before you ever say it out loud. Let's talk about some of the most common mistakes women make in dating, and more importantly, how to stop making them. And if you've done any of these before, don't judge yourself. We all have. These patterns usually come from good intentions, wanting connection, love, reassurance. But they often lead us straight into disappointment or confusion. One of the biggest mistakes, trying to win him. So many women go into dating with this quiet pressure to prove they're worth choosing. They show up polished, say all the right things, play it cool, but deep down they're performing. And anytime you're performing, you're disconnecting from your real self. That energy of please like me doesn't feel magnetic. It feels anxious. It repels. Instead of trying to win him, try this. Observe him. Is he kind? Is he consistent? Does he actually follow through? Flip the script. He should be trying to win you. That's not arrogance. That's standards. Another common trap, over-communicating feelings too soon. We live in a culture that tells us to be honest and open at all times. And while yes, vulnerability is powerful, it needs context. If you're pouring your heart out after 2 dates, confessing how much you like him, or talking about your future together before he's even proven his present, you're emotionally over-investing. And it often makes the other person pull away, not because your feelings are wrong, but because the timing is. Instead, give yourself permission to feel, but keep your emotions sacred. Not everyone has earned access to your inner world. Let it unfold. Let him earn deeper layers of you through action, not speed. Another mistake, ignoring red flags because you feel a connection. Chemistry is not compatibility. That spark you feel might be attraction, or it might be old wounds flaring up. So when he shows inconsistency, lack of communication, disrespect, or emotionally unavailable behavior, believe it. Don't make excuses. Don't tell yourself he just needs more time. Watch how he shows up over time and make choices based on patterns, not potential. And here's a big one. Thinking that love means sacrifice. Somewhere along the line, a lot of women were taught that being a good partner means giving more, being patient, being forgiving, staying no matter what. But love without boundaries isn't love. It's self-abandonment. A relationship should never cost you your peace, your confidence, or your self-worth. If it does, it's too expensive. The good news. Yes, you can unlearn all of this. The moment you start choosing yourself over chasing someone, something shifts. You attract better. You feel lighter, and love no longer feels like pressure. It feels like alignment. Mistakes happen. But the real power is in noticing them and choosing differently. Because once you stop repeating what drains you, you start attracting what builds you. So what really happens when you stop chasing a man? The short answer, everything changes. But not in the way you might expect. Because when you finally pull back, not to manipulate, not to play a game, but because you're genuinely choosing to protect your energy, it sends a message that lands deep. And that message is, I'm no longer trying to earn you. Now, depending on the kind of man you're dealing with, you'll get one of two reactions, and both are incredibly revealing. The first type, the one who is only in it for the attention, validation, or easy access to your energy, he'll fade, he'll get quiet. He might even act confused or offended, but pay close attention. He's not upset because he misses you. He's reacting because he lost control of a dynamic that worked in his favor, and that's silence. That's your clarity. The second type, the man who truly values connection, who may have gotten comfortable but not fully realized what he had. He wakes up. He feels the shift. He notices that you're no longer initiating, no longer checking in, no longer emotionally chasing, and it disrupts the pattern. And if he has real feelings, if there's depth there, you'll see something powerful happen. He starts to come toward you, not out of ego, but because your absence reminded him of your value. Sometimes silence speaks louder than effort ever could. See, the chase isn't what keeps a man. It's what makes him question if he ever needed to try in the first place. When you're always reaching out, always fades, filling the space, always emotionally present, there's no need for him to miss you. He doesn't have to wonder. He doesn't have to reflect. And reflection is what creates emotional depth. When you stop chasing, you create the one thing every human needs to develop emotional connection, contrast. It's in the pause that he realizes what your presence brought into his life. It's when you're no longer available 24/7 that he starts asking, wait, where did she go? Why does it feel different without her? And the right man, the one who's ready, he'll feel that and he'll rise. He'll step forward. He'll take initiative, not because you begged for it, but because your absence revealed your worth more than your words ever could. But even more important than how he reacts is how you feel. You'll start noticing your own energy returning to you. You'll feel calmer, stronger, clearer because you're no longer in pursuit. You're in your power. And that's when everything begins to align. There's a moment, quiet, powerful, when something inside you shifts, when the neediness fades, when the urgency dies down, when you're no longer seeking validation from a man, but instead you're rooted in your own worth. That's the moment you go from needy to magnetic. Now let's be real. Neediness doesn't come from being weak. It usually comes from fear. Fear of losing him, fear of being alone, fear that you're not enough unless someone chooses you. It shows up subtly. Constant overthinking, craving reassurance, reading into his texts, adjusting your behavior to keep his attention. But here's the thing, neediness doesn't attract love. It repels it because it's a form of pressure. And whether a man is emotionally aware or not, he can feel it. It's that invisible emotional tension that makes him pull away. Not because he doesn't like you, but because it doesn't feel good. Now contrast that with magnetism. Magnetism is not about trying harder. It's not about being prettier, smarter, or more impressive. It's about being centered. It's an energy that says, I know who I am. I know what I bring. And I'm not afraid to walk away if this doesn't align. That shift happens when you stop basing your worth on how he feels about you and start asking how you feel around him. Do you feel seen? Do you feel respected? Do you feel like you can relax and be yourself? When you make your experience the focus, not just his potential or his attention, you start to move differently. You stop chasing, you stop controlling, you stop over-explaining. You don't feel the need to constantly be on to keep his interest because you're no longer seeking approval. You're choosing alignment. That energy, it's intoxicating. Men are drawn to women who feel good in their own skin, who don't force connection, who can walk away without drama, not because they don't care, but because they care about themselves more. When you're magnetic, you attract not because you beg, but because you believe. You believe that the right connection won't require performance. You believe that love flows when you stop gripping so tightly. You believe that real connection doesn't have to be earned. It's mutual, natural, and built on shared energy. You stop sending long texts trying to fix things. You stop rehearsing conversations in your head. You stop waiting by your phone for breadcrumbs. Instead, you soften. You trust. You let things come to you. And here's what's wild. When you shift into this space, people notice. He notices. The vibe is different. Suddenly, you're not trying to fit into his world. You are the world he wants to be part of. That's not neediness. That's power. That's magnetism. Let's talk about what this actually looks like in real life. Because theory is powerful, but transformation gets real when you see it in action. Take Sarah, for example. She used to be the one doing everything, planning dates, texting first, staying on read, giving 110% to a man who gave maybe 40%. She wasn't needy on the surface. She was high-functioning, successful, confident, but emotionally she was overextending. Every silence from him felt like a personal rejection. She kept trying harder, thinking, if I just show him how loyal I am, he'll see my worth. Then one day she stopped. She got tired of begging for basic effort. She shifted her energy inward. Instead of chasing his attention, she started giving herself the love she'd been handing out to him. She leaned back, not with resentment, but with peace. And the craziest thing happened. He came forward. He noticed. He asked, what's changed? Because for the first time, she wasn't operating from fear. She was moving from self-worth. Another story, Jasmine. She was dating a guy who always left her guessing, sometimes hot, sometimes cold. She'd stay up late wondering what she did wrong. Then she made one tiny decision. She stopped responding immediately. She stopped being available on demand, not as a tactic, but because she started realizing her time and emotional space were valuable. And guess what? That man who had one foot out the door suddenly started showing up, making plans, being consistent. And when she asked him why, he said something that stuck. You stopped chasing. It made me realize I had to step up or lose you. Then there's Lena. She walked away from a situationship that went on for a year with no label, no clarity, no consistency. It was the hardest thing she ever did because she cared about him. But she finally asked herself, what am I actually holding on to here? The answer, hope, potential, not reality. So she let go. No drama, no ultimatums, just peace. 3 months later, she met someone new, someone who made her feel seen, heard, and prioritized from day one. What do these women have in common? They stopped negotiating their worth. They stopped confusing effort with value. They stopped chasing and started attracting. These aren't just stories. These are women like you, smart, strong, capable. But like so many of us, they had to unlearn the belief that love has to be earned through overgiving. They reconnected with their self-worth. Everything changed. Not because the world became easier, but because they became more aligned. And that alignment, it's what draws the right people in and keeps the wrong ones out. Your story can shift too. And it starts the moment you choose yourself. Before we wrap up, here's the most important advice I can give you. Own your worth and never ever beg for love or attention. This isn't just a catchy phrase. It's a mindset, a way of living. Because when you own your worth, you set a powerful standard, not just for others, but for yourself. You stop settling for crumbs, for mixed signals, for relationships where you're the only one trying. Begging, it comes from fear. Fear of loneliness, fear of rejection, fear that you won't find someone better. But begging always lowers your energy. It makes you vulnerable in the wrong way. It pushes people away instead of pulling them closer. It's like handing someone the steering wheel of your heart and hoping they won't crash. But when you own your worth, something shifts. You reclaim the driver's seat. You become the captain of your own emotional ship. And suddenly you're not chasing after someone to prove you're worthy. You're attracting the people who already see your value. This means saying no to anything that doesn't feel right. It means walking away from people who don't respect your time, your feelings, or your boundaries. It means trusting that the right person won't require you to change who you are or how much you care. And here's the truth. When you stand in your worth, you don't have to shout it. It radiates naturally. People feel it in your energy, your confidence, your calmness. It's magnetic. You might worry that owning your worth means being too much or too proud. But guess what? The world doesn't need you to shrink yourself to fit someone else's expectations. It needs to. He, real you, bold, unapologetic, and whole. Remember, the right relationship doesn't need drama or desperation. It's built on mutual respect, consistent effort, and genuine care. You deserve that. You deserve someone who shows up fully, not someone you have to chase down. So if you're tempted to text him first one more time or to explain yourself just to keep the peace, pause. Ask yourself, am I begging for attention or am I honoring my worth? Choose the latter, choose yourself, because the moment you do, you break the cycle of chasing, you break the cycle of disappointment, you start attracting what you really want and deserve. Your love story is waiting, but it starts with you owning your worth. Never settle, never beg, always value yourself first. That's how you become truly magnetic. That's how you become unstoppable. And that's how you find the kind of love that lasts